them. Sometimes life speaks to us in the quietest ways, not through loud applause, not through grand announcements, but through something small, something almost invisible. A few words written in silence, a comment left where almost no one was supposed to notice. And one day, while scrolling through ordinary moments of an ordinary day, I saw something that stopped me. I saw your secret comment. It wasn't long, it wasn't dramatic, it didn't demand attention, but it carried something powerful: honesty. The kind of honesty people usually hide because the world moves too fast to listen. In that moment, I realized something important. Behind every silent message, behind every hidden word, there is a human heart hoping to be understood. We live in a world where people pretend to be strong, pretend to be perfect, pretend to be perfect, pretend they don't need anyone. But sometimes the truth slips out quietly, in a small comment written late at night when no one is watching. And when I saw yours, I understood that even the smallest voice deserves to be heard. Tonight, I want to talk about those quiet voices, the ones people hide, the dreams people whisper instead of shout, and the courage it takes to say something real in a world full of noise. Because sometimes the comment you thought nobody would see, because sometimes the comment you thought nobody would see becomes the moment someone finally understands you. Sometimes the most powerful moments in life arrive quietly. They don't knock on the door, they don't make noise, they don't ask for permission to be remembered. They simply appear in front of us when we least expect them, like a small light glowing in the middle of an ordinary day. That day was like any other. The world was moving quickly, people were talking, messages were passing by, and life seemed to be doing what it always does, rushing forward without stopping for anyone. And then something happened that slowed everything down for me: music. I saw your secret comment. It wasn't written to stand out. It wasn't trying to compete with the thousands of voices speaking at the same time. It was quiet, simple, almost hidden between the lines of everything else. The kind of message people write when they believe no one will ever notice it. The kind of message that doesn't ask for attention because it doesn't expect to receive any. But the moment I saw it, something changed. Because it doesn't expect to receive any. But the moment I saw it, something changed. There was honesty in those words. Not the loud kind of honesty that people perform in front of crowds, but the kind that lives inside someone when they are alone with their thoughts. The kind of honesty that appears when someone finally lets their guard down, even if only for a moment. And reading it felt like being trusted with something fragile. You see, the world teaches people to hide. It teaches us to protect our feelings, to lock our thoughts behind smiles and strong voices. It tells us that vulnerability is weakness and that the safest thing to do is pretend we are always fine. So people learn to speak carefully. They learn to say what others expect instead of what they truly feel. But every once in a while, the truth escapes. Sometimes it escapes in a quiet message typed late at night. Sometimes it appears in a comment written without thinking anyone important will read it. Sometimes it lives in a small corner of the internet where someone leaves a piece of their heart behind, not realizing that someone else might find it. When I saw your comment, it reminded me that behind every screen is a human being carrying invisible weight. Everyone is fighting battles that cannot be seen from the outside. Everyone is carrying memories, fears, dreams, and questions that they rarely share with the world. And yet, in that one small moment, you allowed a piece of your truth to exist outside of yourself. That takes courage, even if you didn't realize it at the time. Because courage is not always loud. It's not always standing in front of a crowd with confident words and perfect posture. Sometimes courage is something much quieter, and the noise turns into music. Sometimes it's the simple act of saying something real in a place where everything else feels artificial. Sometimes it's letting a sentence exist that reveals what your heart actually feels. The strange thing about secret comments is that they often carry the things people are most afraid to say out loud. They contain doubts people hide from their friends. They hold hopes people are embarrassed to admit. They reveal fears people pretend not to have. And yet, those words are often the most genuine reflections of who we really are. Your comment didn't just look like text on a screen, it felt like a window opening for a brief moment. Through that window opening for a brief moment, through that window, I could see something honest, something human, something real in a world that often feels staged and filtered. It made me think about how many voices go unheard every day, how many people share pieces of themselves in quiet ways, believing that nobody is paying attention. How many thoughts are written and disappear into the endless flow of digital noise, never realizing that somewhere someone might actually understand them. There is something deeply human about wanting to be seen while also being afraid of being seen. We hide our truths, yet part of us hopes someone will notice them. We whisper our feelings into the world, yet secretly wish someone might hear the whisper. Your comment existed right in the middle of that delicate space, between hiding and hoping. Maybe you wrote it quickly. Maybe it was just a passing thought. Maybe you didn't think twice about it after pressing send. But sometimes the smallest actions create the most meaningful moments for someone else because, see, words have weight, even when they are small. The world often celebrates big gestures, grand speeches, loud declarations, dramatic stories that demand attention. But the truth is, most real human connection happens in the quiet moments, in the unnoticed gestures, in the simple sentences that reveal something genuine. That comment was one of those moments. And when I saw it, I realized something that people forget too easily. Every voice matters, even the ones that believe they are invisible. You might think your words disappear into the background of a busy world. You might think your words disappear into the background of a busy world. You might believe your thoughts are just another drop in an endless ocean of voices. But sometimes a single sentence can travel further than you imagine. Sometimes it reaches someone who needed to hear exactly that. Your words didn't just exist on a screen. They created a moment of reflection. They reminded me that honesty still exists in quiet corners of the world. They reminded me that behind every anonymous message is a living, breathing human being trying to navigate the same complicated world as everyone else. And that realization carries something powerful. Because if one comment can reveal so much about the human heart, imagine what happens when people stop hiding completely. Imagine what happens when people realize that their voices deserve to exist, not just secretly, but openly. Imagine a world where people speak with the same honesty they use when they believe no one is watching. A world where people allow themselves to be real instead of perfect. Music. A world where vulnerability is not treated like a flaw, but like a sign of courage. Your comment might have been secret, but the truth inside it was not small. It represented something that every person experiences but rarely admits: the desire to be understood. And understanding begins with honesty, not the polished kind of honesty people rehearse for public moments, but the quiet honesty that appears when someone feels safe enough to write what they truly think. The kind of honesty that shows up in a simple comment that was never meant to be important. But sometimes those are the moments that matter the most because life is full of noise. Endless opinions, endless conversations, endless distractions competing for attention every second. In the middle of all that noise, sincerity becomes rare. You say, so when sincerity appears, even in the smallest form, it stands out like a calm voice in the middle of a storm. Your comment was that calm voice, and seeing it reminded me that every human being has a story worth hearing, even if that story only appears for a moment in a quiet corner of the world. Some people search their entire lives for the courage to express what they truly feel. Music. Some people bury their thoughts so deeply that even they forget what honesty feels like. But every once in a while, someone lets a real thought escape into the world, not for attention, not for recognition, just because it needed to exist. Your comment felt like one of those moments. Music. And moments like that matter more than we realize. When I saw your secret comment, something inside me paused. Not the kind of pause that happens when we get distracted, but the kind of pause that happens when we get distracted, but the kind that happens when a quiet truth suddenly stands in front of you. It was just a few words hidden between thousands of other messages moving across the screen. Nothing about it was loud. Nothing about it was loud. Nothing about it demanded attention. In fact, it almost looked like it wanted to stay invisible. But somehow, those small words carried something powerful, something real. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, sometimes the most honest voices are the ones that try not to be noticed at all. People post big messages, loud opinions, dramatic stories, hoping someone will listen, but a secret comment is different. A secret comment doesn't ask for applause. It doesn't try to prove anything. It simply exists as a small piece of truth that someone left behind. And when I saw yours, I realized something about human hearts that we often forget. People are much deeper than the roles they play in front of others. Behind every smile, every confident voice, there is a quiet world of thoughts and emotions that most people never get to see. Sometimes those thoughts are hopeful, music. Sometimes they are afraid. Sometimes they are filled with dreams that feel too fragile to say out loud. And sometimes those dreams escape through a small message written when someone feels safe enough to speak honestly. Your comment felt like that kind of moment. The kind of moment where someone lets their guard down without even realizing it. You see, the world has taught many of us to hide the most meaningful parts of ourselves. From a young age, people learn that showing too much emotion can make them look weak. They learn that speaking honestly can sometimes lead to judgment, so people build walls, invisible walls made of silence, humor, distractions, and carefully chosen words. But the human heart was never meant to stay completely hidden. Inside every person, there is a quiet desire to be understood. Not admired, not praised, but understood. There is a difference between someone noticing you and someone truly seeing you. Being seen means someone understands the things you never said out loud. That is why secret comments are so powerful, because they often reveal the thoughts that live behind the walls people build around themselves. They reveal the moments when someone stops pretending and simply becomes human for a second. Maybe you wrote your comment without thinking too much about it. Maybe it was just a quick thought that crossed your mind. Maybe it was just a quick thought that crossed your mind. Maybe it was written in a moment when you felt something real and decided to let it exist outside your mind. But moments like that are rare, and they matter more than people realize. The world moves quickly. People scroll past thousands of words every day without feeling anything. Messages appear and disappear like waves in the ocean. Most of them are forgotten within seconds. But sometimes one sentence stands out, not because it is dramatic or clever, but because it is dramatic or clever, but because it carries truth. Truth has a quiet gravity. It pulls attention without trying. Your comment carried that kind of gravity. It reminded me that honesty still exists, even in places where people expect nothing but noise. It reminded me that behind every username, every profile picture, every anonymous account, there is a living person experiencing life with the same confusion, hope, and vulnerability as everyone else. When we forget that, the world becomes cold. People start treating each other like numbers, like opinions, like distant strangers who do not matter. But the moment we remember that every voice belongs to a real human being, everything changes. Empathy begins with that realization. Your comment reminded me to slow down and listen music, not just to loud voices, but to quiet ones. Because quiet voices often carry the deepest truths. There is something beautiful about the idea that a small message can travel through the chaos of the world and reach someone who understands it. It is almost like two strangers meeting in the middle of a crowded city without planning it. Music, for a brief moment, two experiences connect. Two thoughts recognize each other. Two human beings share a moment of understanding without even speaking directly. Your comment created that kind of moment, music. And moments like that remind us that the world is not just a collection of isolated individuals moving through life alone. We are connected in ways we rarely notice, through words, through empathy, and the noise turns into music, through the quiet recognition that someone else feels the same things we feel. Think about how many thoughts people keep hidden every day, how many fears remain unspoken, how many dreams are quietly protected because people are afraid they might sound foolish if they say them out loud. But every once in a while, someone leaves a small message somewhere, a sentence that reveals a piece of their heart. And when another person finds it, something powerful happens. Understanding, powerful happens. Understanding, understanding is one of the most meaningful experiences a person can have. It is the moment when someone else recognizes your this moment without needing a long explanation. It is the moment when you realize you are not alone in the way you see the world. Your comment carried that possibility. It was not just text, it was a reflection of a human experience, and human experiences deserve to be noticed. Music. Sometimes people believe their voices are too small to matter. They believe their thoughts disappear into the endless flow of conversations happening every second around the world. They think that unless they speak loudly, nobody will ever hear them. But the truth is that impact is not always created by volume. Sometimes it is created by volume. Sometimes it is created by sincerity. Sincerity travels further than noise. A sincere sentence can stay in someone's mind for years, while a thousand loud opinions disappear. Within minutes, your comment felt sincere. It did not try to impress anyone. It did not try to be perfect. It simply existed as a genuine thought. And that authenticity gave it meaning. We live in a time where many people feel pressure to perform. Social spaces are filled with images of perfect lives, perfect opinions, perfect responses crafted to look impressive. Perfect opinions, perfect responses crafted to look impressive. Authenticity feels different. Authenticity feels human. Your comment reminded me that authenticity feels human. Your comment reminded me that authenticity still exists in quiet corners of the world, even when it is not being celebrated or recognized. It reminded me that honesty does not need an audience. Sometimes honesty is meaningful simply because it exists. When you wrote those words, you may not have imagined that they would reach someone who would stop and think about them deeply. But that is the beautiful unpredictability of communication. We never truly know where our words will travel. A message written in a moment of vulnerability might reach someone who desperately needed to hear something real. A sentence writ, music, 10 casually might inspire someone to reflect on their own life. Words are small, but their impact can be enormous. That is why every voice matters. Not because every voice will become famous, or widely recognized, but because every voice will become famous, or widely recognized, but because every voice carries a unique human perspective that cannot be replaced by anyone else. Your experiences are different from anyone else's. Your thoughts are shaped by moments only you have lived through. Theirs turns into music. Your feelings are connected to memories that belong only to you. And when those experiences find their way into words, even quietly, they add something meaningful to the world. Her comment was one of those additions, a small contribution to the endless conversation of human existence. And even though it was meant to be secret, its truth was strong enough to be noticed. Sometimes people underestimate the impact of their honesty. They think their feelings are too ordinary to matter, but ordinary experiences are what connect human beings the most. Everyone understands fear. Everyone understands hope. Everyone understands hope. Everyone understands the feeling of wondering whether their voice will ever matter. Your comment existed inside that shared human space. It spoke quietly, but its message resonated because it came from a place that every person understands, the heart, and the heart has a language that does not depend on volume. It depends on sincerity. Your words carried sincerity, and sincerity has a way of reaching people in ways that noise never can. That is why your secret comment mattered, not because it was public, not because it was not because it was real,